Welcome to Tales from the Grave. Please allow me to guide you through the darkest corners of the human soul. It is said that stories create the world we live in. What world would you have? Let us begin. The Blood of the Vows.
Adrian Hart had always thought his bride, Leora, was a woman out of a dream, not just beautiful, but strange in a way that pulled him closer instead of pushing him away. Her hair was black as spilled ink, her skin pale as moonlight, and her eyes, God, those eyes, amber, not brown, and always seeming to catch light in ways that made them glow. She spoke of her family rarely, and when she did, it was always in half-sentences, a place far away, a tradition older than the country they lived in. Adrian thought it was just the romantic mystery of an old European lineage. When she asked that their honeymoon be in her family's homeland, timed perfectly for her 21st birthday, he agreed without hesitation. After all, wasn't it a dream to see the roots of the woman he had just vowed to spend his life with? The journey. They left the modern world behind with each connecting train ride, cities thinning into villages, villages melting into forests, forests giving way to mountains. By the time the driver left them at the base of a winding, crumbling road, night had already fallen. The air was sharp, tasting of stone and damp earth. Her hand was warm in his then, but every so often her grip would tighten when they passed certain bends in the road, as if she felt something in the dark that he couldn't see. Her family's home was no house. It was a fortress carved into the side of the mountain, a sprawling manor of dark stone, heavy arches and tall, unlit windows like hollow eyes staring out over the forest. Inside, the place smelled faintly of dust, iron, and something sweeter underneath. Oil lamps glowed weakly in the holes, and shadows moved with a strange weight, almost as if they had substance. That night, after a small wedding feast prepared by her silent, watchful relatives, they retired to the master bedroom. The heavy oak door shut with a sound like a coffin lid. Adrian, to retire to the master bedroom. The heavy oak door shut with a sound like a coffin lid. She stood before him in her wedding gown, the silk almost luminescent against the darkness. "Adrian," she said softly, "I have something to tell you before midnight." Her voice trembled, but not with fear. "This place, my family, we are bound by something older than history. When a daughter turns 21, she receives the gift, or curse, depending on who you ask." He frowned. "What kind of gift?" She smiled. It wasn't the sweet, shy smile she'd given him during their courtship. This smile was hungry. Immortality, strength, the hunger. Adrian's mouth dried. "Leora, you're not making sense." The church bells from the village below began to toll midnight. She gasped, clutching her chest, her eyes going wide. He reached for her, but she staggered backward. The light in the room seemed to dim, shadows tightening around her like a shroud. Her pupils swallowed her irises until her eyes were bottomless pits. Her canines lengthened, glinting faintly in the lamplight. Her breathing slowed, then stopped entirely. Adrian backed toward the door, but two of her relatives were standing there now, their faces pale as wax, their smiles identical to hers. "It is the night of the blood vow," one of them murmured in a voice like dry leaves. Leora stepped toward him, her gown whispering across the floor. "I chose you, Adrian. The first taste must come from the one I love, so that you will never leave me." He reached for the doorknob, but the room was suddenly colder, heavier, as if the air itself had weight. Fingers cold and strong clamped around his wrist. Her lips brushed his ear. "You promised till death do us part, but death will never come for us now." The last thing Adrian saw was the gleam of her teeth before she sank them deep into his neck. Outside, the bells kept tolling, 13 times instead of 12. In the old tongue of the Carpathians, that 13th toll was a herald. Another has joined the family.
If you are enjoying Tales from the Grave, please be sure to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories. Now back to Tales from the Grave. Our second story continues Adrian and Leora's tale with The First Hunt. The forest was silent, but for the sound of their footsteps, or rather Leora's absence of them. She moved like mist, gliding between the skeletal pines without a whisper. Adrian followed behind, still learning how to place his feet so the leaves didn't betray him. The cold night air didn't bite anymore. In fact, he didn't feel cold at all. He felt alive, electric, each breath pulling in 100 scents at once. Damp moss, wood smoke from some far-off chimney, and beneath it all, the copper-rich perfume of human blood. "They're close," Leora murmured, her voice carried like a breeze, curling around him. "2 men, hunters from the village. You can hear them, can't you?" Adrian tilted his head, listening. There, the low rumble of voices, the rhythmic thump of 2 heartbeats, and the faint clink of metal against leather. His body reacted instantly. His throat burned. His teeth ached. "Good," she said, reading the change in his stance. "Let instinct take you." They came upon the men at a clearing. The hunters had built a small fire, their rifles leaning against a log. They sat on crude stools laughing about something Adrian didn't hear. All his focus was on the way the firelight painted their throats, the way blood pulsed visibly in their necks. Leora stepped out first, not hiding herself. The laughter stopped. "What the hell?" one of the men began, but she was already moving. 1 second she stood at the edge of the light, the next she was inches from him, her eyes molten gold. His companion scrambled for his rifle, but Adrian was faster than he'd ever been in his life. He didn't think, he pounced. The man fell back with a grunt as Adrian's hand closed over his mouth, silencing him. His eyes went wide as Adrian leaned in, smelling the fear on his skin. Then Adrian's teeth sank into his neck. The first rush of blood was fire in his veins, sweet, hot, intoxicating. He drank greedily, his mind flooding with the man's fading heartbeat, the warmth spilling into him, the power blooming in his muscles. A muffled gurgle made him glance up just in time to see Leora drop her prey. She was smiling, crimson on her lips, her pupils blown wide with hunger. "Finish him," she said softly, her tone almost affectionate. "He's yours." Adrian's victim was still twitching faintly, but not for long. When the body finally went still, Adrian stood, swaying slightly, his breath coming in slow, satisfied pulls. The world looked sharper, brighter, every star above a burning pinprick, every sound crisp and distinct. Leora stepped close, cupping his jaw with a blood-slicked hand. "You see now," she whispered, pressing her forehead to his, "why the hunger is a gift." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The taste of blood was still warm on his tongue, and he knew he'd never be able to live without it again. The two left the clearing hand in hand, their footprints fading into the frost. Behind them, the fire crackled, lighting the faces of the dead one last time. Somewhere in the forest, an owl cried, and the sound to Adrian was a hymn.
Thank you for being here. Please be sure to leave us a comment. Let us know where you're listening from. Until we meet again, stay spooky and made all your nightmares be groovy.